has announced that the Gaza ceasefire that came into effect just hours ago is now over. Israel says Hamas breached the planned 72-hour truce by resuming rocket fire, while Hamas says 27 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli shelling.
The Israeli military also says it's now searching for a soldier who's believed to be captured. Gabriel Sassoon is an advisor for the Knesset's deputy speaker, who's from the opposition Labour Party in Tel Aviv. Mr. Sassoon, thank you for joining us tonight. Firstly, the humanitarian ceasefire was in place for just hours before it was broken. Who's to blame here?
Well, I've lost count of the number of times Hamas has broken ceasefires, Oscar. Nobody disputes what's happened. Hamas launched rocket attacks against Rafah, and they used the ceasefire as cover to kidnap a soldier and attack Rafah. And
to back the truce, I guess implying that it was the Palestinians at fault here, but in another development, can you tell us anything more about the Israeli soldier who's believed to be abducted by Hamas?
I know that he's 20 years old. The information is scarce at the moment, and I know that the Israelis are making every effort to find him as soon as possible right now.
Calls for a ceasefire intensified, of course, after Israeli forces shelled a UN school in a Gaza refugee camp, killing over a dozen people. It's an incident that shocked the world. With the truce now over, can Israel guarantee that similar tragedies won't occur?
No, I don't think it can. These were UN schools. The UN has openly admitted, the UNRWA is a UN organisation, they've admitted 3 times now that Hamas had been storing rockets in UN schools and shelters. And rockets were being fired from in or near the school. It's undisputed. The headline with respect should be Hamas fires rockets from school using children as human shields. Last week, when we saw scenes of devastation on ABC News 24 of huge devastation, what Hamas had been doing, it now is revealed, is they've been using a hospital, the Al-Wafa hospital, as their central military command. This is the goal. They use their citizens cynically as human shields.
If that is the case, that Hamas is using Palestinian civilians as human shields, will Israel continue to simply target those areas knowing that civilians are in those establishments?
I think it's a difficult. This is asymmetric warfare. This isn't two nations fighting each other. This is a terrorist organization like the local version of the Bali bombers or Jamaat Islami using hospitals and schools. I mean, to the extent where the European Union last week unanimously, all the foreign ministers of the European Union unanimously called for Gaza to be disarmed. Hamas is holding Gaza hostage. And may I remind you, I work with the opposition. I've got no reason to support the Israeli government, and criticising the Israeli government is my bread and butter. I will add, the member of Knesset that I work for, the deputy speaker, organised trips to Ramallah to speak with the Palestinian Authority. I sat with Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president. But these are not representatives of the Palestinian people. These guys took over Gaza in 2007, and since then they've been holding Gaza hostage. And I don't know what else Israel can do at this point.
The Israeli government says that it won't stop this current offensive until it destroys the tunnels that Hamas militants use to get to Israel and potentially attack Israeli territory. How close is the government or the military forces in achieving this?
About a week ago, they'd said that they needed 3 days to decommission most of them, but they needed about 3 weeks to completely destroy them. Bear in mind, Hamas took about $1.6 billion, I may be mistaken on the figure, it might be more than that, in foreign aid, and used it to construct these extremely sophisticated tunnels. The IDF saying that the intelligence is saying that they've found out Hamas had been planning a mass terror attack that would have rivaled the Mumbai attack. Kidnap, murder civilians, drug them and take them back. So I think it's a critical thing that the tunnels are destroyed.
Well, irrespective of Israel's motives when it does carry out these attacks on what the government believes are valid targets, militant targets, can you understand why there's immense frustration and sadness from the international community when civilians, including children, are killed en masse in these attacks?
There's mass frustration in Israel that civilians are being killed in Gaza. My friends in the peace camp and across the political spectrum are appalled. But it's a question of apportioning blame, and at this point, it's really hard to blame the Israelis for responding in this way. And I think you'll see it across the world. Leaders around the world, friends of the Israeli government, certainly not the current Israeli government, they called, it wasn't reported widely in the international press, but they called for the complete disarmament of Gaza. So that's what has to happen. And look, I would agree with the accusations that Israel is acting disproportionately. It's disproportionately acting with less ferocity and in a restrained fashion compared to what any other country would. I mean, you know, look, one more thing, Oscar. Mothers are having to face a Sophie's choice, particularly down south, right? I had to run to a bomb shelter 2 days ago from this very office. I was sitting in this chair. I had to run to a bomb shelter within 90 seconds. Women are making a Sophie's choice down south. Within 15 seconds, they have to choose whether they're going to get the kid playing in the backyard, right, or they're going to get the baby in the bassinet before they run to the bomb shelter. What country would live this way?
Okay, Gabriel Sassoon, we'll have to leave.